I want to give you my headline thoughts on Vision Pro right up front, so there's no question where I'm coming from. I think this is a revolutionary product category. To be clear, most consumers should not purchase this device, but after having used and developed for VR and AR a fair bit over the last 8 years or so, when I put this thing on, I'm certain it's something different. The Verge has said Vision Pro gives a view of the future, going as far as to question whether the core technologies may even be a dead end. In my opinion, this device isn't the future, it's the present. Let me tell you a bit more. I didn't pre-order Vision Pro, so I'll go through the walk-in purchase experience. Even if you've already done a fitting scan, Apple's probably going to make you do another one with one of the in-store iPhones. I was measured anywhere from a 21W to a 25W depending on the scan. It seems like the first digit in those sizes indicates width, the second is depth, and then W or N for bridge, wide or narrow. I'm not totally sure about that though. When I tried the 25W at the store initially during my demo, it had a much more pronounced binocular effect than the 23W I ended up purchasing. My original scan at the store also specified medium headbands. When I scanned again before actually buying, it gave me small bands instead though, so I do think I'm pretty borderline, but I've been happy with the small. All that to say, I'd recommend doing several scans yourself before going in, just so you have an idea of the range you'll end up in. Now, I wear glasses, so a few notes on how that works. For the demo, I just wore my glasses there, and they used a lensometer to measure the lenses for loaners. When I actually made my purchase, I got just the headset in store. Later, I bought the lens inserts through the Apple Store app. After that, I uploaded my prescription to Zeiss. That was yesterday afternoon, and delivery is currently scheduled for about a week from now. One more quick glasses-related diversion before we actually get into the headset. Let's talk vision in Vision. It's actually kind of blurry for me right now in Vision Pro. In order to get a sense of what actual use outside the demo is like with proper focus, I actually just scotch taped some old damaged lenses in place. I have to recommend you not do this for a couple main reasons. First, this will very likely damage protective coatings on your lenses. This didn't matter to me because these old lenses had already been pretty badly damaged. Second, at least when using these damaged lenses, both Optic ID for authentication and the eye tracking precision were both pretty unreliable. Setting those issues aside, I've spent several hours using Vision Pro with both the lenses taped to the headset as well as taped directly to my face. Things actually seem to work a bit better with them taped to my face, but that was obviously less than comfortable and has aesthetic considerations. When I'm actually in here, the apparent focus distance seems to be around 6 feet, which I can get by with for now. By the way, this audio is from the Vision Pro onboard microphones. I'll have an indicator up on screen whenever that's the case. I should also note that it's very dim in this room right now for normal filming. This lack of light can be challenging for AR hardware, but I think it's going to be very common in practice. In fact, this is how bright my office usually is when I'm actually working. I've been super impressed with how consistent the tracking performance is in low light. Hand occlusion is something I was really curious about. When your hand is above darker areas, it's basically magic. Over lighter spaces, it's very shimmery and not something you'd want to stare at. In active use though, I don't think about it at all. The occlusion is good enough to become effectively seamless. Of course, one of the most important things about any computer is how you interact with it. I find both the eye and hand tracking incredibly precise. To be clear, I don't have anything to compare the eye tracking to, and I'm comparing the hand tracking mostly to Quest 2 as of a year or two ago. This is very impressive though. No, it's not a mouse, but I've been using a mouse for basically my whole life, so I'll need more than a couple days to say how eye tracking works for me as a replacement or even just an augmentation. I think the hand tracking in particular has a few limitations right now, mostly just due to how the headset loses track of your hands. I most often encounter this when I'm relaxing and put my hands behind my head. Of course, then the goggles can't see my hand due to the head in the middle and nothing happens. It also loses track of my hands a bit sooner than I expected when putting them down to my sides. Another small quirk is that pinches aren't always reliably detected if your fingers are parallel with your eyes.
So here you can see I'm able to draw pretty easily. Normally, just pinch and draw and it works great. But if I rotate my fingers so that they're kind of parallel with the cameras or with my eyes, I'm not able to actually reliably draw.
Sometimes I also don't unpinch enough. This can be a bit disorienting when I'm scrolling a page and it just keeps on going. I'd love to see an integration with Apple Watch pinch detection in the future, which I think would help with all those problems. For text entry, I find the hunt and peck method basically unusable. Look and pinch is much better. Even better than that is dictation, either via the keyboard button or just looking at and dwelling on certain microphones in the UI. If you want to get serious typing done, as usual, bring a keyboard. Speaking of serious work, in my opinion, Vision Pro is already more of a desktop-style computing experience than iPad has ever been. I think this mostly comes down to window management. Windowing on iPad has always confused and frustrated me, honestly, but this felt great right away. Once you grab a window, it moves in a sphere or capsule shape around you. That means it's flat, facing you around eye level, but as you raise or lower it, it automatically tilts toward your head. The angle isn't something you have control over unless you actually physically kneel or stand up, for example. Walking around the house holding a dog, water bottle, and a window works great, even in very low light. Z-stacking windows also works great. When you open the home menu while looking at a window, it just opens in front. You can end up with a little stack of apps that you can then switch focus back and forth between. visionOS is still a 1.0 operating system. There are lots of rough edges. For one, there's no concept of saved window arrangements. If you reboot, app window positions are just reset. Windows and objects also aren't perfectly fixed in place. They shift slightly as you look and move around, although that movement still feels very controlled to me, never jarring. This is most noticeable with small objects like this Playdate model. Showing my Mac screen in AR is probably one of the most exciting features for me, and I'll be diving into that more once I've got my prescription inserts. For now, here are some first impressions. Upsides, I'm a single monitor kind of guy, so that limitation isn't really a big issue for me. I basically just gave myself a slightly bigger version of my actual monitor, and it seems pretty great. Downsides, my Bluetooth mouse was constantly losing connection when I was using Steam Link. It seems to be fine in normal desktop use though. Another one is that keyboard input automatically switches to visionOS apps when I look at them, but not my mouse. Supposedly this works with trackpads, but I don't have one to test with. Speaking of mice and Steam Link for iPad loads up fine. It says slow connection, even though I'm right next to my relatively new Wi-Fi 6 router and my Windows machine is wired. But the bigger issue is no mouse support, so you're currently limited to controller games. The good news is, I was starting to look through the developer documentation yesterday and saw multiple mentions of using a mouse directly with visionOS. This makes me suspect mouse support just had too many quirks for the initial release and it'll be coming pretty soon. There's no denying that this is a version 1 product. I suspect it'll never have the same level of adoption as smartphones, at least without a pretty radical change in form factor. However, I still think it's a solid base for a new way to work with computers. In my opinion, spatial computing, as Apple calls it, is an apt description. Thanks so much for watching, and get subscribed if you want to see my experiments with developing for Vision Pro in the future. I don't normally do tech reviews, but I just got so excited when I put this thing on that I started writing and couldn't stop myself. See you around.